Our priority will be Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American-owned small businesses, women-owned businesses.
You know, we live in this cancel culture. There's a less forgiveness in our world. I think we're unfortunately in a coarser environment.
Vogue under fire. Their new cover of Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
They really put Kamala Harris VP in Converse for Vogue, slamming the photo for looking like an amateur snapshot.
And some even called it a little racist.
Why not? Why not?
Having an unflattering photo of you is racist.
That's the first thing that jumped out at me. First of all, I'm surprised. The quality of the photo is not good.
No, it doesn't look like a magazine cover.
No, it doesn't.
The other version that they have two versions. The other version does look like a magazine cover.
But she is there in her like Nike kicks or whatever they are. Converses.
Chucks.
And
her Chucks.
Chucks. Yeah, yeah. She wears Chucks or Timberlands, I believe. That's
yeah.
Timbies,
She wears
whatever they are.
Yeah.
That's fine. If you want to be stupid and love the Chucks and Timbies and say, "Wow, it just shows," the swagger that she has.
Mm-hmm.
If that's fine. If you want to be stupid and say that it's racist, why not? That's what everything is. Everything is racist, no matter what. That it just is. It has to be, because if color is involved at all, if somebody of color is involved or not involved, it doesn't matter. It's just simply racist. Bye bye, Anna Wintour. Although I do like that one particular scene in Devil Wears Prada.
Mm-hmm.
God, I wish I didn't say that out loud. Also, a few remaining guys who assume that I'm a real man are going to leave. Okay, so let's see. Oh, a couple of things going on in the world. One, Fox News is taking a beating from Newsmax.
Huh.
And Martha MacCallum is being demoted. Martha MacCallum, who's really nice, seems like a really nice person, is being demoted.
She is, although her show is not like the must-watch TV that Tucker.
It's not,
is.
although she was leading her time slot. And Newsmax, this guy, what's his name? Kelly, Steve Kelly or something okay. Kelly, has really been taking a lot of her, eating her lunch recently.
Oh.
She's still been beating him, but they've taken a lot of the market share from Fox News.
Yeah, but is Tucker still doing fine? Because I would think he is.
They've taken a quarter to a half of every day part.
Wow.
Of Fox, according to what I read here. And that is... Yeah, no, I would think that Tucker is probably doing fine because he hasn't. He's not an apostate officially to the Trump folks. So that's Martha MacCallum, who I like, by the way, just in case. So there you go. Now you can feel free to watch it. So there are things to be concerned about. All this tech stuff, I don't know what's going to happen. It's very interesting. The platforming, all the followers going away, and banning people from platforms, and Parler from platforms, and in other, like now this gun manufacturer apparently has been banned, and it's all in. It's all in. So like every wish list item of the left is really being pushed forward through using the big tech to do it right now.
Other countries are even saying, like Angela Merkel was saying, like this is troubling that they're banning President Trump from the platform.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a weird day when Angela Merkel is complaining that free speech is ending in the United States because of liberals doing it. You know. Well,
yeah, and without Twitter, you don't know what he's up to. You know?
Right. I'm sure all the foreign leaders really enjoy having him on Twitter. It's very helpful for their...
It's intel into what he's doing, you know? If he's watching The Bachelorette, you know that he's not doing something else. But more locally, the whole idea of just canceling and bullying businesses, etc., is disgusting. And it's happening more and more. So there's a very famous bookshop in Portland, Oregon called Powell's. Have you heard of Powell's House?
No.
Well, it's an actual still like hardcover, soft cover bookstore, and it's
very hipstery.
It's an institution. I don't know if it's hipstery, but it's an institution. So Andy Ngo has a book coming out,
right?
February 2nd, and Powell's Bookstore is going to be selling Andy Ngo's book.
Okay.
course, this is Portland, home to many Antifa. And earlier today, Antifa decided to hold a little rally, like as they do.
It's nice of them to remind people that they do it too.
This guy, this guy who I found him on. He was on TikTok and on Twitter. He put the message out there today.
I'm gonna promise y'all one thing. Andy No is not selling that book at Powell's bookstore. Meet me at Powell's bookstore at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Sure enough, none of them had to be at work at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and they converged on Powell's books.
We are your friendly neighborhood Antifa.
Stop selling Andy No's book.
You're on the
How can you have the
Stop selling Andy No's book.
How can you
Stop
have
selling Andy No's book.
I don't care.
Stop selling Andy No's book. 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 Stop selling Andy No's book.
They seem fun.
I think I at least know what their demands are.
It's a simple one.
It wasn't. This is what democracy looks like.
Although it's not quite as catchy as F Trump, F Biden too. They don't give an F about you. That one was very, very almost melodic.
Yes. So the book, the guy who runs the bookstore had to barricade off the front entrance, but the Antifa people, they put posters up everywhere calling them racist and fascist and this and that. So he had to evacuate the bookstore as Antifa were surrounding them and let people out the back to escape. The bookstore customers had to escape out the back. And this evening, Alice, CBS, KOIN, in Portland, Oregon, Powell's has an announcement. Guess what it is?
They will not be selling Andy No's book.
That is correct. Yes. Portland, Oregon. Portland icon Powell's book said Monday it would not place Unmasked by Andy No on store shelves. He rose to prominence. The announcement followed calls online or in person for the store to be picketed. No rose to national prominence as an outspoken critic of Antifa after activists allegedly attacked him. What? His brain bled for documenting a milkshake-themed protest in Portland in 2019. His articles and posts showing street brawling and riots here and across the country have gained him conservative fans and far-left enemies. His book, Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy, is slated for release in February. Twitter backlash appeared to start Sunday and gain steam Monday morning, with users complaining Powell's was propagating racism, right-wing ideology. They sell Mein Kampf in that bookstore, probably.
I mean, yeah.
And supporting a, quote, fascist gravy train book for a Nazi collaborating Portlander, end quote. Some called for pickets as of 1 p.m. Only a few had gathered outside the Pearl Store district. Well, that got to be quite a big crowd. Powell's announced that No's book would not be placed on shelves. And that's that. Andy No is a very slight Asian gay man who was beat up by these Antifa
Sounds
thugs.
like a white supremacist to me.
Right.
I mean, like, what are these feel like? It's just so...
Was beat up by these left-wing thugs. I still have people who actually say to me, it means anti-fascist. Yeah, it means anti-fascist, right? Just like the Nazis are simply
National
the National
Socialist Party.
There's
no more context.
They just want the means of production shared. That's it. So that is that, and that's all it took. Some unemployed losers to go and harass and push people around. Their cops didn't seem to be anywhere around there. They were intimidating the customers and the owners, and they got their way. And there you go. You snuffed out some more free speech, and people will never get to hear. The guy who wrote the book about Antifa, is not allowed to sell it in Portland because they run that town.
Yeah, they do. They have the mayor begging them to not hurt the town anymore. Because he's tried negotiating with them. They're not listening. So he's like, I'm going to have to crack down harder, I guess even though he agrees with that. He's a liberal. But it's just, I don't know. That's why I sort of I guess I take a slightly more optimistic view than the people who are saying they're going to crack down and you'll never be allowed to do the slightest conservative thing in America ever again. You know, they remind you who they are pretty quickly, you know.
Well, but who they are is gaining in power right now.
But, yes.
And they've got a good track record. You know, I've been in radio when I was working with Jay Severin. You know, he said stuff about illegal immigrants. And,
do you think...
and there's, in that case, there's an institutional machine there ready to attack him and call our salespeople, and was calling our GM and our program director and calling our phone lines. You know, hello, 96.9 FM Talk. And there'd be guys with accents on calling from New York numbers saying, yeah, Jay Severin is a racist. Jay Severin is a racist. Jay Severin is a racist. You should cancel Jay Severin. And just the armies were at the phone banks, making the calls, writing the letters, you know, influencing the editorial boards that wrote the editorials, that shunned the station and its advertisers, and out went Jay. And that's how the template is tried and true at this point. You know, obviously Jerry Callahan, Kirk Minahan, even Christian Fourier, WEI. These are all Boston, New England folks, but it's happened across the country. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to do.
Right.
People are intimidated by this mob.
I mean, but I can't help but think that, you know, normal people, part of what was so bad for Trump about what happened at the Capitol is normal people don't like this. They don't like violence. They don't like people screaming at bookstores.
But how come these people have so much more influence over elected leaders than normal people?
I mean, I think elected leaders are like everybody else. When they get a ton of calls, when there's a pile on, they think that's everybody, you know, and that's how social media feels too. When somebody piles on you and like goes after you and calls you all these names and says you're a racist and this and that. And like, I think elected officials are even more sensitive to that than other people because their fortunes depend on, you know, 50% plus one of the people liking them. So if a bunch of people call them up and say, I hate you, I can't believe you're doing this, you're the worst person in the world, then they cave because they're very susceptible to that. Politicians
I think you're underestimating the amount of true believerism there is in elected leaders, now more than ever, including those mayors, psychos like Ted Wheeler.
Yeah, I know that, but I just think that, you know, there are also a lot of normal people out there who vote. And I think what harmed Trump this last election was that his behavior was erratic. And I think that this most recent happening this past week is what, you know, really damaged him because people don't like chaos. They don't like trouble. And I think that, you know, that riots hurt your cause. And that's
since when? Who thinks that is a thing? I mean, it's certainly.
A left-wing academic got banned for his research showing that riots do hurt causes.
Well,
you know, the MLK. You know, when the nonviolent stuff helped, but the riots a few years later were not good. You know.
Well, I understand that, but in certainly in this election, the House of Representatives gained seats for Republicans, and other than Trump, the GOP conservatives were not thrown out. Wacko progressivism was, but Democratic leaders, Alice, are very comfortable in cultivating, encouraging, and participating in some of these violence.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
they're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
She seems sweet.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Maybe we keep the megaphone a little farther from our mouth, Maxine Waters, when we scream for people to accost other Americans at restaurants. But the incoming Vice President of the United States.
Mm-hmm. I know that there are protests still happening in major cities across the United States. I'm just not seeing the reporting on it that I had
that's right.
for the first few weeks.
That's right. But they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not, this is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should not.
And they should not. We should not. Yay! And I realize that there was a bit of a problem in the nation's capital a few days ago with all conservatives, but conservatives have condemned what happened as being a horrible thing.
Right? Yeah, of course. I mean, and no one, Trump included, called for violence as directly as Democrats have been calling for violence. He didn't say go out and riot the way, essentially, Ayanna Pressley and all these people did. They tell their people to. But I do think that people get a little sick of riots all the time, and like normal humans who are trying to live life and like have businesses and do stuff. And, it's cute when
then how come they've been happening for at least 8 years? I mean, and you look at Occupy
Wall Street. Well, you notice they toned down a little before the election because they realized the totally spontaneous, totally grassroots, definitely not AstroTurf riots subsided a few months before Election Day when it looked like they were hurting Biden in the polls. Because they do. Because normal people don't like having stuff looted every night and their town set on fire. It's not really a fun way to live. So we can go back and forth, but it doesn't help them, I don't think, in the long term that they do that. Just like it didn't help Trump that his supporters did what they did. And, and there is now a backlash against conservatives, but there's always another day in politics. It's not, heading towards the end of all things.
Yeah, but your culture gets degraded, and eventually it seems a little hard to, put everything back in order. And what was the fallout for Occupy Wall Street, which was a total criminal festival in many big cities, including Boston, certainly New York? They went from Bloomberg to this moron that they have after that. It only got worse. Progressives just make things worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I mean, yes, there are some ramifications now.
And now they might end up with Andrew Yang for a mayor in New York.
Well, there are some ramifications now, but that's people moving out of the cities, people moving out of California. But then they're just going to turn Texas into California.
Yeah, and then Elon Musk is going to colonize Mars and people move there, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that people want to put up with this. I think that people are already perturbed and feel that this is kind of overreach by the tech companies, what's happening right now. normal average people. Like, I think that there are plenty of people who didn't like what they saw at the Capitol, but who also think that banning Trump was too far, and definitely that removing Parler off the internet was too far. I think that that's a completely mainstream normal position. I think that a normal average person who's not very political would think it was weird that they took a whole website off the internet because they didn't like what people were saying on it,
I don't know.
And that Amazon can do that unilaterally.
Now influenced by dummies who are 26 years old and are critical race theory experts.
But I mean,
and only see thing through the prism of intersectionality and victimhood, and because whatever you're doing, because Andy No's book is dangerous and violence, it can't be, you can't have it.
I mean,
because Andy No criticizes our anti-fascist movement, we get to throw bricks at his head because our lives are at stake because of him. So their rationalization for this crazy behavior, Alice, it never gets undone. They never get straightented out at all. And it's crazy. I mean, there are some people like...
Bill Ayers is still on Twitter. His Twitter account, Bill Ayers, who actually blew people up, is not on... He's not banned from Twitter. He's still out there tweeting.
Every once in a while, and it happens usually along the lines of cancel culture. Every once in a while, somebody gets it and says, this isn't... And even if they're good liberals and they say, maybe this isn't great, that, my friends have just had their careers deleted for something that they said, 11 years ago. This is Bryan Cranston from, what's he from?
Is that Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad or Seinfeld, as far as I'm concerned. He'll always be the dentist on Seinfeld.
We live in this cancel culture of people erring and doing wrong, either on purpose or by accident. And there's a less forgiveness in our world. I think we're unfortunately in a coarser environment. I think our societies have become harder and less understanding, less tolerant, less forgiving. And my question today was, where does forgiveness live in our society? Where can we accept someone's behavior if they are contrite, if they are apologetic and take responsibility? Isn't it possible that forgiveness plays a part in that and they are welcomed back in, as opposed to creating more fences, creating more, you're out, you're in, that's it, you make one mistake, gone. People, whether it's having an impulsive reaction to something and being frightened and doing something wrong and being ostracized for the rest of their lives or something. It's like, I think we need to take a second look at that and exhale and realize that asking forgiveness and receiving forgiveness are not weaknesses, but are human strengths.
Will that catch on? Will that be a thing? For you, it might. You're a Christian. But, and it seems like something that a good-hearted progressive should feel. I mean, we're forgiving, violent offenders from their prison sentences. Mm-hmm. They're forgiven. Anybody who attacks this country are forgiven.
Right.
If you don't embrace Western values, but denounce them in a crude, awful way, you're certainly forgiven, if not celebrated.
Yeah, but voting for Trump, no forgiveness.
No.
Singing a rap song as a teenager, not forgiven. Like, that's...
And at this point, if you've ever had an affiliation with Trump, if you've ever said a nice thing about him, they're creating these lists everywhere, including magazines about people who worked anywhere in the administration, and they're going to go and let future employers know that these people are not to be taken back into polite society for simply working for a president. It's craziness. It's craziness. And he said, Cranston just said some people are in and some people are out. Well, that's another thing too.
Yeah,
we're picking those people whose discord is acceptable, and we're stamping them good to go. And those people who've been deemed not to be acceptable, we're stamping them rejected. And it's not just along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's along other lines. Today, President-elect Joe Biden talked about relief from COVID and the priorities that would be that his administration would have for doling out the relief.
Our focus will be on small businesses on Main Street that aren't wealthy and well-connected, that are facing real economic hardships through no fault of their own.
Okay,
So
good.
far,
Our
so
priority
good, yeah.
will be Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American-owned small businesses, women-owned businesses.
First of all, how is this even...
It's not legal. It's absolutely 100% not legal to discriminate based on race. in a
Whites,
federal
stay over
program.
there. Blacks, you go over there. You're going to be
definitely
first.
not.
Latinos, you stay there. You're going to be second. Now, women, you go over there. We've made a value judgment about you, regardless of your story, regardless of the circumstances that got you in this position, whatever. And we've decided to instill value depending on simply the color of your skin. That's it. You're gooder and more deserving. Come on in. You wait. Stop that. You're less good than these. Now hold on. We're gonna check on Jews for a moment. No, sorry about that. You stay over there.
Some Jews.
Right. Cubans. We'll back burner. We'll get to it. I don't know. Do Asians not deserve?
Asians, it depends. If it's for schools, they definitely don't get any.
This kind of talk. I've never heard this kind of talk from a president-elect. Trump would never say something like this.
Obama would never have said something like that.
No, it's crazy that you would. That is, talk about Mr. Unite.
Oh, yeah.
You're literally dividing us by import to the administration.
Unite. And the most important people that I care about. I'm going to be a president for all Americans, but especially more so a president for Black, Latino,
Let's play it again.
Latinx.
Our focus will be on small businesses on Main Street that aren't wealthy and well-connected, that are facing real economic hardships through no fault of their own. Our priority will be Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American-owned small businesses, women-owned businesses, and finally having equal access to resources needed to reopen and rebuild. But we're going to make a concerted effort to help small businesses in low-income communities, in big cities, small towns, rural communities that have faced systemic barriers to relief. Think of the mom and pop owner.
The systemic barrier to relief so far
has been the government.
Yes, exactly.
The government has been the barrier to relief.
Yes, and you have brutalized Black, Latino, women, gay, straight.
Correction, the systemic barrier has been the government, and then the second systemic barrier that happened all summer was riots and burning down things by people on the left. Largely a lot of minority-owned businesses. So, well done. Congratulations,
Our priority
liberals.
will be Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American-owned small
Asians in
businesses,
there.
women-owned businesses.
Okay.
Can you imagine?
It's unbelievable.
You speak like this stuff. What is this, 1940? We have separate locker rooms for everybody, and seating on the bus prioritized. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. This is not uniting. This is
most colleges have like at Tufts it was called the Africana House, like a special dorm thing for Black students to have like a safe space from students.
Joe Biden has begun and ended his career with segregation.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, actually, that we've come full circle so quickly, that we had this debate like 60 years ago now. And now we're right back where we started at the separate drinking fountains. Like, didn't this just happen? Like, it's within the lifetimes of people who are alive right now.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris specifically told us this was within her lifetime. So it's kind of shocking that we're...
Yeah, what about fweedom? When she was talking about fweedom, I think MLK was talking about the content of her character.
I mean, you would
the content
think so.
of your skin pigment. That is the entire value system.
But I mean, how much is it like some animals are or all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others? Like, it's equity. That's different from equality. It's not equality of opportunity. It's equity. That means that we need to get people to the same place because they've been behind. Oh, okay. Like, what? It's a big issue. It really is. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe all this tech stuff and the free speech stuff and the Antifa throwing bricks at people stuff, maybe it's the end of American civilization. I don't know. But, or maybe like a lot of people seem to keep saying on the internet, maybe we're at Civil War 2.0 territory. I don't know. But I hope not. I hope not. I hope not.
I'm going to lose like 100 pounds if I'm expected to join the Civil War. And also, I don't even know who I'm supposed to be attacking.
I can tell you that at the warehouse where I work at night, that the people there haven't gotten the memo about music that contains.
You said warehouse, right?
Yes. The warehouse where I work at night. The people there. What did you? Stop. The people there haven't gotten the memo.
I'm allowed to say that.
No, that's really mean, and in poor taste, and I don't like it. And
I know, but it was right there.
But
I don't want to say that.
It wasn't right there in my head. It was right there in your head because you have a problem. You have a problem. And
I didn't want to say that, Alice, but somebody had to say it.
Okay.
Because there's some sick people out there, some sick viewers and listeners who think that kind of humor is funny, and it's not funny, and I condemn you to the highest.
Well, in any case, it's a diverse group of people, and no one there of any color has gotten the memo about listening to music that contains the N-word, including at work. So,
Oh, really?
So it's a utopia where they're free from that version of political correctness. It hasn't hit yet. So they feel comfortable playing that and, having it out loud, singing along. They could all be canceled very quickly, but they don't know. And I'm not going to be the one to do it. So that's fine. But, I don't think that this has reached as far as it seems like it has if you spend a lot of time on Twitter. Like, to go back to what you were saying yesterday about, like, being too online.
Yeah.
Like, I think that this stuff seems more prevalent than it is if you're online a lot. Like how the Latinx thing, like, most Latino people haven't even heard of the word Latinx. Like, they just don't even know that it exists. The ones that have heard of it don't like it. But, like, if you were on Twitter, you would never know that most Latino people haven't heard the term Latinx. You would think that all Latino people want to be called Latinx all the time because that's what everyone says. And there are communities where this, like, tumor of this type of thinking is growing in real life. Like, you sent me the thing from the town we used to live in where it was like women spelled, it was something
with an X
program about women with WOMXN and what was the other word that they had in there?
Folks.
Folks with an X. FOLX.
I didn't get that. Why does folks? So women has an X because it won't have the word men in it.
Right.
Okay, which is not at all crazy, but fine.
Folks is a word that's sort of popular among those people because it's not a gendered word. So
why does it get an X?
So instead of saying ladies and gentlemen, you can say like, hey folks. Like,
yeah, but why does folks get an X?
I'm not sure. I guess just it has the O. It still has the O. It's missing the KS. I'm not sure. It's FOLX. But I don't know. Like, I don't really know the theory of why it's folks X. Like, I don't know. But maybe to denote. I can't even imagine. I don't even have it in me. And I look at what a lot of very liberal people say online. So, I mean, I have some friends that I went to high school and college with that are just like the most, like, you guys, our audience, wouldn't believe the stuff that I've heard people say. Real people that I know. But
yes, they're insane. And I can't believe it because...
And one of them's a Facebook fact checker. So that should tell you everything you need to know.
She's deciding what you're allowed to read and what you're not allowed to read. I get the feeling...
Oh, yeah, she posted about fact-checking articles.
Book will not be making it.
She posted about fact-checking articles by providing... She's like, can anyone link me to, like, a good academic study that I can use to cite about how, like, gender isn't determined at birth or something? And I was like... Really? That's fact check worthy? Like, that's, if you think you're born a specific gender, that's like that can just be fact check false, the end, it's gone from Facebook. Like, it is amazing. But that being said, like, there's a whole real world out there with other people who don't even have Twitter accounts and don't know about this stuff. And, like, I mean, I don't know if they vote or not or what, but they're all out there and they're living their lives, and, like, they don't know they can be canceled for playing music with the N-word at work. And, like, it's a happier place out there. It really is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The only problem is that activists can use social media to, bring to bear pressure on organizations, individuals, and just simply do it by tagging people until a little Twitter mob comes together. And that mob can result in emails and other, incursions into what used to be the sanctity of leadership in corporations.
Yeah, and corporations are cowards.
Yes, they're cowards, and corporations now have activists inside, headhunting those people who will, die by the PC sword.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's up in the air now. I mean, I was thinking more about what we talked about having like political views be a protected class, like religion. And I was thinking, like, maybe that's the way you go. Then you can't be fired for having certain political views, just like you can't be fired for having a certain religion,
Well, yeah, especially when there are terms that mean everything and nothing, like hate.
Right.
Like you had hate speech was used at work, and that can mean anything. That can mean, and I've seen this in this year in certain institutions and certain businesses where if you question whether or not the police murdering of Black Americans is rampant or not, that right there is a denialism, and you're asserting racist tropes, etc.
Right.
And it can just be something that it's just vapor. But you said something hateful. It was hateful. It made us feel uncomfortable. Made us feel unsafe. This unsafe stuff is remarkable. This is why when I graduated high school, we were big liberals. Most of us. It was a big liberal town, and we were, and now it seems like everybody who I graduated with could be at National Review. It's crazy. Yeah. And it's not that we've all moved way to the right. It's just
Gen X
psychoticness is gone over the top.
Gen X is a bit of a more conservative generation in general. More conservative than the boomers and more conservative
hell yes.
than millennials, for sure. So, hard to say what's going to happen.
We didn't think so. We had, we did what Eddie Vedder told us to do, and he was a good lefty.
Yeah, but all young people are liberal when they're young, and then you grow up and you get more conservative. But compared to
but we also didn't know in mass that we were all allowed to be victims. And if given the choice, and there was around the edges, there was some of it. If given the choice, you wouldn't pick it because it's no fun.
Yeah, and you're a loser if you pick it. Who wants to spend time complaining about bad things happening?
Those people making sure that Andy No's book is not sold at Powell's. If you got to look at those are people who are not happy with themselves. Because you would never look like that, I have an excuse. I love pasta and beer, There's self-hatred going on there.
There might be self-hatred going on with your love of pasta too, possibly.
Fair point. I want my psychologist. This is an inside story. I asked Alice to get me a psychologist, and she won't get me. I want a female psychologist.
Yeah, I got him a list of doctors who were taking new patients and told him to call them, but it wasn't a hot chick. So he wants me to go and find one that's a hot chick. So now I have to. People who have done this know how much work this is to pour through lists of doctors on your insurance company's website and find one who's taking new patients and call their office. And right now, no one is taking new patients for anything right now anyway. So it's
an attractive
such a waste
female
of time.
like Tony Soprano.
You can't get anything.
Or the guy in The Departed.
We know someone in Boston who was looking for a new primary care, and the closest one they could find was in Waltham, who was taking new patients. I mean, it's really hard to get somebody out there. And
if you know a very attractive psychologist, please send me a message to know. I need to not love pasta so much, and find out exactly which parent was mean to me that makes me eat pasta now, or why I'm screwed up. And it's certainly not my fault. It can't be the lack of self-discipline.
It's some kind of trauma in your past.
Yes, exactly.
That we need to discover.
So prep them. Let that psychologist know that they will have to come up with a trauma that is not of my own doing, so that I can blame somebody else for me being a gluttonous jerk. All right. You know what? I do want to go back for a moment, Alice, because it's really important. to the story of the day that everybody's talking about.
Vogue under fire. Their new cover of Vice President-elect Kamala Harris leaked over the weekend. Why so many are saying it disrespects the Vice President-elect, what we're learning about that outfit, and what the magazine is saying now.
When you think of Vogue magazine, you think high fashion, top-notch styling, and luxury designer. So many were shocked to see the cover with the VP-elect, with the general consensus being that the magazine just missed the mark. The cover's unplanned early release immediately drawing criticism for not measuring up to what's expected from the leading fashion magazine.
Can you imagine just how much is being spent on this? Like the First Lady, Melania Trump, can't get on a magazine.
One person writing, they really put Kamala Harris VP in Converse for Vogue, slamming the photo for looking like an amateur snapshot.
Vogue is getting some backlash for its cover photo of Vice President-elect Kamala Harris in next month's issue. Critics called this picture of Harris wearing her familiar Converse sneakers unflattering, disrespectful, and some even called it a little racist. Many complained that Harris's skin tone appears to be washed out and that the full-length portrait resembles a test shot.
Ooh, vicious, vicious, vicious.
Wow.
I mean,
sorry, I'm looking for the picture here.
In the picture, she's dressed like she usually dresses, like on the stump. I don't. So I don't think it doesn't look like a Vogue shot, but maybe they're trying not to find a glamour shot for her. Maybe why am I defending Vogue? Go cannibalize each other. You can storm into Anna Wintour's office and drag her people down the stairs, whatever we want to do. I have nothing to do with that. That's not my problem.
Okay, I'm gonna transition. Look, it's a new trick I have. I've now put Kamala her picture on the YouTube video so you can see if you're watching YouTube. See?
Very nice. And we should put the picture thing.
So
you know what? You guys can find it. You know how to find it.
Yeah. Your camera's a little. I didn't really set it up properly, but that's okay. I'm learning new stuff with the YouTube videos. So we will get to a point where I can even play you videos too. I'm gonna learn, but so you can see her in her Vogue shoot. It's just doesn't look like a professional photo, and the suit looks bad, and her smile looks bad, and Kamala's team says they didn't approve that photo. They only approved the other photo that Vogue put out there, but so they're not, Kamala's team isn't happy, and the internet's not happy, and they feel that a racism happened to them, so.
Well, I mean, I think she's probably the best looking vice president that we've ever had. I think, probably. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean...
Well, Dick Nixon was good looking during his day.
I mean,
Fritz Mondale.
She's a good looking lady. And it is interesting that there's this blow up over her being in Vogue, and they never put Melania on any magazine ever. And
she's the vice president. Melania is first lady. Alice, I won't have you equate the two people.
and everyone knows Michelle Obama was not on a magazine cover, but supposedly Vogue is really pissed that Kamala's team threw them under the bus and said they never approved the photo, and they hate it because they've been begging Kamala to go on all this time, and finally they deigned to go on. They were mad that she didn't want to go in Vogue because I think the Biden-Harris team thought it would be an unserious look for her to be on the cover of Vogue, before the election and everything. So they, they didn't want her to be in there, and then they let her be in there, and now they don't like the picture, and they're mad at Vogue, and Vogue's mad at them. So it's all kinds of drama. So yeah, let them cannibalize each other. It's fine. I'm happy with it.
And it's interesting to know that people, even with a new administration, have plenty of time to be jerks. So it's interesting, Alice, that Chad Wolf, the acting Homeland Security Secretary, is leaving. Now he. It's an odd time for a Homeland Security guy to leave because the Capitol was just attacked.
Yeah, you would
think so. There are events coming up, and supposedly other capitals could be attacked. So A.B. Stoddard, who's a great reporter, and you may think she's a liberal, and maybe she is, but she's a great reporter. She actually talked about him leaving today, and makes some really good points.
There's fewer than 10 days or 10 days maximum left for Chad Wolf, who was overseas during an assault on the Capitol, which he should have been involved in mitigating or preventing. Because all of these events, like the State of the Union or inauguration or when a foreign leader comes and addresses in a joint Assembly of Congress, the vice president spending the entire day at a Capitol, that was all supposed to be a coordinated event between DC Police, Capitol Police, and the federal agencies, and of course, DHS and FBI. There are plans for this. They intentionally did not coordinate this. So he is culpable. He was out of town overseas for this. He is leaving before the inauguration on purpose. Just think of what we do not know. Just think of how frightening this is. The security crisis that you outlined in the last hour, that the FBI has now told us, because they're panicked that they didn't reveal enough before and didn't do enough. Mm-hmm. So in mop-up mode, they're telling us there's going to be armed protests in all of these different state capitals. And
isn't that interesting?
It is. It's
mop-up
crazy.
mode. That's why this news dropped today that all the states are going to be attacked.
Our capital between the 17th of January and the 20th of January. So the idea that Chad Wolf is trying to escape now is absolutely, it's just unbelievable, but it's truly frightening because there's so much going on that we're not aware of yet.
I mean, it is a very odd situation, and you've seen. I think you've seen that like 2 police officers have now been suspended, and I think 1 fired for
taking selfies with the attackers.
Taking selfies, and one of them put a MAGA hat on and was showing them around, I guess. So, it's not clear to me. As far as I can see, the lefties and the righties on the internet both think that this was somehow a plot against them. The fact that the officials seemed involved or complicit or lacking seriousness or something. I don't know what the allegation is from both sides, but they're both really mad about it.
Right.
People on the left are mad. People on the right are mad. I don't know what it all means, but I assume there's going to be a lot of investigating to find out. And I don't know, honestly, if they're going to have an inauguration apart from in an undisclosed location, because there are so many credible threats against the inauguration right now.
Yeah. And then and so it is not a great time to lose the Director of Homeland Security. He should be back here finding out exactly why Vogue mistreated the vice president.
This has been a Monday Burn Barrel podcast. You can talk to us on Twitter for the time being anyway, at Burn Barrel Pod, facebook.com/Burn Barrel Podcast. You can send us an email if social media fails, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. Parler's gone, so I won't mention that, but we are still on YouTube at Tom Shattuck's Burn Barrel. That's our YouTube channel. You can like, comment, and subscribe.
C'est la vie.